The journey to find the true self. The moon hung low in the sky, its silver light barely breaking through the clouds. In a small town nestled among rolling hills, a modest house stood by the side of the road. Inside, a woman sat alone, staring out the window with a faraway look in her eyes. Her name was Li Mei. Li Mei had always been a woman of quiet strength. She was the daughter of a respected herbalist in the village, a woman who had lived a life of service to her community. But Li Mei herself had always felt a sense of restlessness, a yearning for something more. She had inherited her mother's skill with herbs and medicines, but her heart was never fully in it. She often wondered why she had not chosen another path, one that felt more aligned with who she truly was. Yet, each day, she continued with the rituals her mother had taught her, blending roots and leaves, preparing tinctures, and delivering them to those in need. The villagers depended on her, just as they had depended on her mother before her. The work was noble, but it never fully satisfied her. There was something inside Li Mei that longed to be expressed, something that went beyond the knowledge she had inherited, something that only she could bring to the world. One afternoon, as Li Mei was preparing a batch of medicinal tea, a visitor arrived at her doorstep. The man, tall and well-dressed, seemed out of place in the small, humble village. He had the air of someone accustomed to the luxuries of the city, someone who had seen much of the world. His name was Tian, and he was an artist who traveled the country, seeking inspiration for his paintings. When he asked for directions to the temple on the hill, Li Mei offered to show him the way. As they walked together, the conversation turned to art and beauty. Li Mei listened intently as Tian spoke passionately about his craft, about the beauty he saw in the world around him, and the deep connection between the artist and the world. She was captivated by his words, by the way he spoke of life with such intensity and purpose. For the first time in years, Li Mei felt a spark within her. As they reached the temple, Tian turned to Li Mei with a question that caught her off guard. "Tell me, Li Mei," he said, "what is it that stirs your soul? What makes your heart beat faster? What is the one thing you've always wanted to do, but have never had the courage to pursue?" Li Mei was silent for a long moment. The question lingered in the air, heavier than any words she had ever heard. What was it that stirred her soul? What had she long buried deep inside her? For the first time in years, she thought about it. She thought about the feeling of the wind on her skin as she wandered the hills behind her house, the quiet moments when she felt truly at peace, the flicker of inspiration that had crossed her mind every now and then, the one she had always pushed aside. I have always loved to paint," she finally said. "I used to draw when I was a child, but I never pursued it. I thought it was just a childish dream. But now, I think I've forgotten how it felt to create something beautiful with my own hands." Tian smiled, a knowing smile. "Then perhaps it is time for you to rediscover that part of yourself, Li Mei. Life is short, and we should not let our dreams wither away just because we fear failure or judgment. The world needs your art, even if it is only for you." Those words struck Li Mei like a lightning bolt. As Tian departed the next morning, she stood in her doorway, watching him disappear into the mist of the hills. In his wake, she felt a sense of clarity she had not known for years. It was as if a door had been opened, and a flood of light poured into the room, chasing away the shadows of doubt and fear. The next few weeks were filled with quiet change. Li Mei began to pick up her brushes again. At first, it felt awkward. Her hands trembled as she dipped the brush into the paint, unsure of what she was doing. But with each stroke, she began to feel something awaken inside her. Slowly, she rediscovered the joy of creation, the beauty of expressing herself through colors and shapes. The world around her began to take on a new light, and she began to see everything as part of her. Canvas. One day, as Li Mei was painting by the riverbank, an elderly woman passed by and stopped to admire her work. "You have a gift, child," the woman said, her voice full of warmth. "Your art is like a breath of fresh air. It speaks to the soul." Li Mei smiled, grateful for the woman's words, but still unsure if she was truly ready to embrace her new path. "But I have no formal training," she said. "I don't know if my work is good enough to share with others." The elderly woman chuckled softly. "Art is not about perfection. It's about expression. It's about sharing what you feel inside and letting others see the world through your eyes. Don't let fear hold you back. If this is your calling, you must follow it, no matter where it leads." Li Mei stood still for a moment, the woman's words echoing in her mind. The fear that had once held her back began to melt away. In its place, there was a quiet resolve. She knew what she had to do. She would paint not for anyone else but for herself. And if others found joy in her work, then that would be a gift she would gladly share. As the seasons changed, so did Li Mei's life. She began to show her paintings at local markets, at small gatherings of friends and neighbors. Slowly, her work found its way into the homes of others, and soon, people began to come from neighboring villages to see her art. But the most important thing was that she had finally found herself. She was no longer the daughter of the herbalist, the quiet woman hidden behind the walls of her small home. She was Li Mei, the artist, the creator. Lesson to be learned: the story of Li Mei is a reflection of the journey we all face at some point in our lives. There comes a time when we must confront the question, what is our true calling? What is the one thing we are meant to do, the thing that sets our hearts on fire? Often we are held back by fear, fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of being inadequate. We hide our talents, our dreams, and our passions behind the walls of our comfort zones. We think we are not worthy or that it is too late to change. But the truth is, the world is full of untapped potential. Just like Li Mei, we all have something within us that is waiting to be expressed. It is never too late to embrace your true self, to follow your passion, and to create something that is uniquely yours. In the end, the most important lesson is this: do not let fear stop you from pursuing what truly makes you feel alive. Only when we step outside our comfort zones and embrace our true selves can we find the happiness and fulfillment we are searching for. The heart of creation, the path of rediscovery. Months passed, and the spring winds began to warm the air in the little village. Li Mei's reputation as an artist slowly grew. Her work, filled with vibrant depictions of nature and life, captured the essence of the world around her. But while she felt fulfillment in her paintings, there was still a voice within her that wondered if she was truly on the right path. One evening, as the sky turned from gold to deep purple, Li Mei stood by the river, contemplating the view before her. The soft rustling of the trees and the gentle flow of the water seemed to call out to her, urging her to reflect. She thought back to her first encounter with Tian. He had sparked something in her, yes, but she still wasn't sure whether this new life was simply a way to escape from the life she had known, or if it was truly her destiny. In the quiet solitude of the riverbank, she realized that this uncertainty had been lingering in her heart since that conversation. Her inner turmoil was soon interrupted by the sound of footsteps approaching. It was the elderly woman again, the same woman who had once praised her art. "You seem lost in thought, Li Mei," the woman said, her voice filled with the wisdom of someone who had seen much of life. Li Mei turned to face her. "I am. I wonder if I am truly on the right path. I love painting, but there's a part of me that feels torn. I've lived my whole life one way. Can I truly change? Can art really be the thing that fulfills me?" The elderly woman smiled kindly, taking a seat next to Li Mei on the rocks by the river. You ask a question that many people struggle with. You see, dear, the question is not whether you can change, but whether you will allow yourself to change. True fulfillment does not come from following a prescribed path. It comes from listening to your own heart, from allowing your inner calling to guide you. Li Mei listened intently, her eyes fixed on the woman as she continued. You are not bound by the life you've lived. It is your choice to embrace the life you are meant to create. But remember this, the journey you are on is not just about the end result. It is about the process, the creation itself. Every brushstroke, every color, every canvas you fill, those are the moments that shape you, that allow you to grow into the person you are meant to be. Li Mei took these words to heart. Over the next few weeks, she began to approach her work differently. No longer was she concerned with whether her paintings would be good enough or acceptable by others' standards. She stopped trying to please the world and started to paint for herself. Each piece became a reflection of her own journey, her struggles, her doubts, her hopes, and her dreams. One day, as she painted by the river once more, something unusual happened. A gentle breeze picked up, sending a swirl of leaves and petals into the air. Li Mei reached for her brush instinctively and began to capture the movement of the leaves in the sky on her canvas. What began as a simple sketch soon turned into a breathtaking depiction of the dance of the natural world. For the first time, she saw her art not as a separate entity, but as a part of the world, a living, breathing extension of the forces of nature itself. In that moment, she understood what the elderly woman had meant. Creation is a reflection of the universe itself. It is not confined by boundaries, expectations, or limitations. One evening, Li Mei received an unexpected visit from a stranger. He was a young man, a scholar from the city, and he had heard of her work. With great respect, he asked to see her paintings. Li Mei welcomed him into her humble home and shared her collection with him. The scholar looked at each piece with keen interest, his eyes flicking back and forth, examining the layers of color and emotion woven into the canvas. When he finished, he turned to her and said, Li Mei, your work is exceptional. There is a depth here that I have not seen in many artists. But I must ask, why do you not seek to exhibit your paintings in the city? Your talent deserves to be known by a wider audience. Li Mei hesitated. It was true. She had received a few offers to showcase her art in the city. But the idea of exposing her soul to a world that might not understand her work frightened her. She had grown accustomed to the quiet simplicity of her village, where her art was cherished in its own intimate way. The thought of stepping into a larger world, one full of judgment and expectation, felt daunting. I fear that the city will only see my work as a commodity, she admitted, that it will be reduced to just another object for sale, rather than a reflection of my soul. The scholar smiled gently. You are wise to be cautious, but remember this, the value of your work does not diminish because others may not understand it. True art is never about how many people appreciate it. It is about the meaning it holds for you. And if it speaks to the right person, it will find its place in the world, regardless of its popularity. Li Mei took this advice to heart, but it was not an easy decision. It took many more weeks before she gathered the courage to take her paintings to the city. When she finally did, she felt the weight of her fears. What if her work was dismissed? What if it didn't fit in with the standards of the art world? But to her surprise, her paintings were met with admiration. They resonated with people in a way she hadn't expected. They saw the honesty in her work, the raw emotions captured in each brushstroke. Her pieces were displayed in galleries, sold to collectors, and praised by critics. But none of this mattered as much to Li Mei as the sense of fulfillment she felt in knowing that she had honored her true calling. The path was not always easy. There were moments of doubt and insecurity, moments when Li Mei questioned her decision. But with each challenge, she grew stronger. She had learned that true art is not about perfection or success. It is about the courage to express oneself honestly, to follow one's heart, and to create without fear of judgment. Lesson to be learned in Li Mei's journey. We see that true fulfillment is not found in external validation, but in the act of creation itself. We are often taught to seek approval from others, to measure our success by the standards of the world. But the greatest fulfillment comes from within, when we allow ourselves to pursue our passions and trust that our creations, whether they are paintings, ideas, or actions, hold inherent value simply because they are a reflection of who we are. Li Mei's transformation from a woman burdened by doubt to an artist at peace with her own voice teaches us that we should never allow fear or external pressures to define our path. Creation is an act of freedom, and through it, we can discover our truest selves. The ultimate realization, the art of life. As the years went by, Li Mei's art became a celebrated expression of the inner life. Her paintings were featured in galleries not only in the city but across the region. Despite the recognition, she remained grounded, always seeking deeper meaning in her creations. Though she had achieved success, there were times when she still questioned her place in the vast, ever-changing world. What was the true purpose of her art? What made it valuable? Was it simply for her personal satisfaction, or did it serve something greater? One evening, as the moon rose high in the sky, casting a silvery glow over the landscape, Li Mei found herself once again by the river. She sat, as she had so many times before, contemplating the world around her. The same gentle breeze whispered through the trees, the same water flowed past her. But something had changed within her. She had come to realize that her journey, her personal quest for meaning, was more than just about art. It was about living authentically. The elderly woman who had spoken to her many years ago appeared at the riverbank once more. "Li Mei," she said with a smile, "I see you have come full circle. You have found the peace you sought. But I can see there is still a question lingering in your heart." Li Mei nodded, acknowledging the unspoken truth in the woman's words. "I've learned so much, but I wonder, what is the ultimate lesson in all of this? How does it all come together?" The elderly woman sat beside her, gazing out over the river. "You are an artist, Li Mei, but the art you create is not confined to your canvases. The true art is in how you live your life. Every decision you make, every interaction, every moment you experience is part of your masterpiece. The journey you have undertaken has taught you not only to create, but also to be present, to embrace the unfolding of life as it is, without resistance." Li Mei listened carefully, the words resonating deeply with her. "You see," the woman continued, "life itself is an ongoing creation. It is an ever-shifting flow, like the river we sit beside. We cannot control its course, nor can we always predict what it will bring. But we can choose how to respond. And it is our response, the way we engage with the world, that defines our experience and our art." Li Mei's heart swelled with understanding. She thought back to the moments of doubt and fear she had felt early in her journey. At the time, those moments had seemed like obstacles, but now, she saw them as integral parts of her process. Each challenge she had faced, each fear she had overcome, had contributed to the person she had become. Someone who was not afraid to live authentically, to express herself fully, and to embrace the imperfections of life. She smiled at the elderly woman. "I think I understand now. My art is not just something I do. It is who I am. It is the reflection of my spirit, my thoughts, my experiences. And life, too, is an art. Each of us is creating our own masterpiece, whether we realize it or not." The next day, Li Mei began a new series of paintings. This time, however, she didn't approach her art with the same sense of urgency or the desire for external validation. She simply painted what she felt, what the moment inspired within her. The brushstrokes flowed naturally, effortlessly, as if she were merely a vessel for the expression of life itself. As she painted, she reflected on the teachings of the elderly woman. She understood that the process of creation was not just about making something beautiful, it was about engaging with life in a way that was true to her essence. Life, just like art, was not about perfection. It was about flowing with the moments, accepting the changes, and living fully in each experience. Soon, a realization began to take root in Li Mei's mind. Her journey had started with the desire to create something meaningful, but it had evolved into a deeper understanding of herself and her connection to the world. She no longer felt the need to define her success by the recognition she received. She had learned to see beyond the surface, to embrace life with all its flaws and imperfections. In doing so, her art and her life had become truly meaningful. The world, she realized, did not demand perfection, it demanded authenticity. The most profound works of art, and the most meaningful lives, were those that were lived with sincerity, openness, and a deep sense of connection to the present moment. One day, as Li Mei was preparing for another exhibition, a young artist came to her for advice. "I admire your work," the young artist said, "and I've heard how you found your way through doubts and fears, but I'm still struggling. I don't know how to move forward. How did you overcome your uncertainty?" Li Mei looked at the young artist, seeing in them the same doubts and fears that had once plagued her. She smiled gently and replied, "I didn't overcome my doubts. I embraced them. I learned to sit with them, to understand that they were just part of my journey. Don't try to force your life or your art into a mold. Let it unfold naturally. Trust that the process is as important as the result, and that the true meaning comes from living authentically." Conclusion. The true art of life. As Li Mei continued to live and create, she came to understand that the most important lesson she had learned was that life itself is the greatest work of art. Every choice, every moment, every thought, and every action contributed to the masterpiece of her existence. She had learned not to fear the uncertainties of life, but to embrace them as the very essence of creation. Her journey, like the river she had often sat beside, had been full of twists and turns, moments of calm and moments of turbulence. But it was the flow, the constant movement, that made life and art beautiful. The ultimate lesson, she now knew, was that true fulfillment comes not from seeking perfection, but from embracing the art of living authentically, with all its complexities and imperfections. Life is not about achieving some idealized vision of success. It is about the process of creation, of being fully present, and of engaging with the world in a way that is true to oneself. As she looked out over the river one last time, Li Mei smiled, knowing that the true masterpiece she had created was not just in her paintings, but in the way she had learned to live, to love, and to be. In the end, the art of life is not something we achieve, but something we experience. It is a journey, not a destination. And like the art we create, it is a continuous unfolding, a process that requires us to let go of the need for control and to embrace the beauty in every moment, every experience, and every step of the path. The masterpiece is already within us. We are the artists of our own lives, and every decision we make, every step we take, is part of the grand canvas of our existence. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit like and share it to spread these values to those around you. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please click the subscribe button so you won't miss any upcoming videos. Every like, share, and subscribe from you is a huge motivation for us to continue bringing even better content. Thank you so much. and see you in the next videos.